Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Daily Triple, your no shit gaming news video. That's 3 news stories in one video with zero faff. 6 Days in Fallujah was a game about one of the bloodiest battles in American history, which took place in Iraq in 2009. A game based on that event was in development and focused on the American Marines against Iraqi insurgents, but more importantly the civilians trapped in the middle. That game was originally announced in 2009 before being shelved by publisher Konami due to its controversial nature of taking a tragic real event and real people and trying to make it fun. Now, 12 years later, the game has been re-announced with Highwire Games developing the project. Jamie Greisner is the studio's founder and is a veteran game designer from the Halo and Infamous franchises. Fellow Halo alumni Marty O'Donnell will also be working on the title, and it will be published by Victura. The game sounds at first glance like it could very well be the next Spec Ops: The Line, a war game that directly engages with the subject matter in a compelling and thought-provoking way beyond just being shooty bang bang. However, Peter Tamty, the head of the game's publisher, stresses that this game is not political. Okay. For us as a team, it is really about helping players understand the complexity of urban combat. It's about the experiences of that individual that is now there because of political decisions. And we do want to show how choices that are made by policymakers affect the choices that a Marine needs to make on the battlefield. Just as that Marine cannot second guess the choices by the policymakers, we're not trying to make a political commentary on whether or not the war itself was a good or bad idea. Now, not making a game with political implications is totally fine, but let's just address the subject matter of this one real quick. 6 Days in Fallujah will specifically focus on the Second Battle of Fallujah, which took place from November the 7th to December the 23rd in 2004 between US, British and Iraqi forces against Al-Qaeda. The battle led to over 100 casualties and over 600 wounded in the combined military coalition and 800 civilian fatalities according to the Red Cross. Addressing a real-life situation like that without making it political is impossible. You don't have to come out and explicitly say Bush f***ed up to make it political. The subtext alone is enough whether you like it or not. Call of Duty Modern Warfare recently went through the same song and dance about is it political or not, and that was largely based in an entirely fictional setting, apart from appropriating a real-life event where the US was the aggressor and turning the tables to make it the hero. To make matters more precarious but potentially more interesting as a game, it's trying to tell human stories from specific people based on real-world accounts from veterans and civilians who were actually there using interviews. Some NPCs in the game will be based on real people, alive and dead. The general consensus, as I understand it, is that the Iraq War was a really bad thing, so it wouldn't exactly be shocking to see someone say that that war was a bad fucking idea and that the governments of Britain and the US let their troops down. To give Tamty and his team the benefit of the doubt, I think what he's trying to say is that it's not about the politics of the war, it's about the people affected by it. There's a subtle difference, but the nuance is important. Obviously the game is political, but it's not specifically about that. It's about real people and forming empathetic connections with them, and that's quite admirable if they can actually do it right. I believe Tamty knows full well that there are political implications here, but he's just saying this because it will sell more games, and it even has multiplayer, so expect microtransactions in there somewhere, but fortunately some of the proceeds are meant to be going to charity. Spec Ops: The Line is an excellent game, but it didn't sell great because it looks just like every other generic military shooter. Ironically, the controversial white phosphorus scene in that game mimics an actual event that happened in the real Battle of Fallujah, where the US Army was criticized for allegedly using it on civilians. Tamty actually said that they won't even be engaging with the white phosphorus situation because none of the people they spoke to experienced it, and he doesn't want to sensationalize. I understand not wanting to cover something you don't know about, assuming that's even true, which I highly doubt, but that was a huge factor in why the battle was so controversial. Simply ignoring it is a disservice to telling the truth of what really happened and to the lives of those affected, making it in and of itself a political action. In reality, I imagine the devs know full well that this game is in fact political, but they don't want to burn any bridges by saying something like America was wrong here. On their FAQ page, they even have to explain that the US government isn't involved at all and that this isn't a recruitment tool for the army. It sounds to me like they're trying to play both sides, however I worry that this means they won't fully commit to either. It won't be dumb fun because they're taking it very seriously, and it won't be thought-provoking or compelling because they're too afraid to actually say anything, and both aims risk undercutting the other. On balance, I am still interested in this title because from the sounds of it, it does have potential to be something really interesting by focusing on the real people involved. I just cannot stand this phony "we're not political" crap every company pulls these days. It's okay to be political, it's okay to not be political, but your game is about a real, very controversial battle. Come on, man. I've barely scratched the surface on this one, but I best move on. So if you want to know more, I suggest you check out Polygon's article. There's a link in the description. Holy shit, that first one was kind of long, so let's keep this one a little slimmer, shall we? Last week, I reported that Sony is already suffering drift problems with its brand new DualSense controllers just months after launch. Now, the first of potentially many lawsuits has officially been filed against Sony. The class action lawsuit comes from Chemicals, Schwartz, Kreiner, and Donaldson Smith LLP, the same firm that is currently tackling Nintendo over Joy-Con drift. The firm recently offered a form for people to fill in and describe their issues with stick drift. The lawsuit alleges that Sony's DualSense controller is defective and that this issue compromises the DualSense controller's core functionality. On top of the issue itself, the lawsuit adds that it is difficult to fix since Sony offers limited options for repair and that the company failed to disclose this material information to consumers. It continued, as a result of Sony's unfair, deceptive, and/or fraudulent business practices, owners of DualSense controllers, including plaintiff, have suffered an ascertainable loss, injury in fact, and otherwise have been harmed by Sony's conduct. Accordingly, plaintiff brings this action to redress Sony's violations of state consumer fraud statutes, breach of warranty, and unjust enrichment. Plaintiff seeks monetary relief for damages suffered, declaratory relief, and public injunctive relief. Among others, the lawsuit is on behalf of Mark Turner, who claims to have bought the PS5 on February the 5th, and the controller started drifting the very same day. But one potential issue with this is that usually in a company's terms and conditions, they make clauses to forbid you from suing them in court and will force you into arbitration instead, i.e. solving the situation in private, not in front of a judge or jury. There won't be an answer to any of this for some time as these take ages, and there are plenty of other lawsuits around the exact same thing still going on as these companies scramble to defend their faulty products. As I mentioned earlier, there's a couple of class actions against Nintendo at the moment, which I've covered a few times. There are a few quick and easy solutions to stick drift, which typically involve just cleaning around the stick, but often these are only temporary if they even work at all. I can't speak from experience about the DualSense, but at least 2 of my 4 Joy-Cons drift. One is still usable for the most part, but the other is nothing more than a glorified paperweight at this point. Drift can be caused by improper use, but with the Joy-Con lawsuit, it is alleged that it is a direct design flaw that Nintendo knew about and ignored, which I fully believe to be the case. But don't think it's only Nintendo and Sony who face this problem, as Microsoft also has a controller drift lawsuit ongoing where it argued that the case should be solved with individual arbitration. You're 3 of the biggest tech companies in the world. Here's a thought. Make products that fucking work, okay? And finally, The Witcher 3 is widely believed to be among the best video games of all time for its storytelling and choice-based narrative. Its iconic bath scene has been memed to death on the internet, but this is a version I never expected to see. YouTuber Anders Lundborg has made a bit of a name for himself recently by recreating popular games with PS1 quality graphics. Lundborg is also an indie developer who works on mobile projects, but these PS1 demakes are just animations at the moment. With the advent of remakes becoming more and more common, keeping things retro with these demakes is a great way to see what could have been back in the day. The world wasn't ready for The Witcher 3 in 1998, hell, it was barely even ready for it in 2015 when it launched as a buggy mess, but now we can look back fondly. Lundborg also did a Cyberpunk PS1 demake which got over 1 million views, and actually it runs better than the real game does. And that's your lot for today. If you enjoyed this no shit format, go ahead and give the video a like to give it a boost, hit subscribe and the bell if you want to stay up to date on all future installments, toss a coin to your YouTuber over at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. That's all for today. I've been Henry Cooper. Bye for now.